Good morning, you accursed. It's David Herle here along with Jenni Byrne and Scott Reid from The Curse of Politics. Day 5 of no power here in Denholm, Quebec. I'm looking a little ragged. That's one of the reasons there's no video today. We're joined here. We're got 2 today because we've got this session and then we're doing our live show tonight. I've got to find a way to have a shower between now and then.
No. Don't. Not on our account.
I'm doing it for the Toronto Regional Board of Trade. I'm doing it as a special favor for the Toronto Regional Board of Trade. Allison Smith, Queen's Park today. Good morning, Allison. How are you?
Good morning. So we are, tomorrow is 1 week till Election Day. So we're really, the parties only have 7 days left to, including today, to hit the hustings and keep barnstorming. So we're really getting down to the wire. Doug Ford today is going to be in Brampton, and then he'll make an announcement in the morning, and then he'll be out in Mississauga in 2 PC held ridings in Mississauga. I don't know if that's a sign that maybe he's a tiny bit worried that the Liberals are gaining some steam there. Hard to say. Liberal leader Del Duca, he's going to be talking about Doug Ford's big box bias, which is, they talked about that a lot during the pandemic when like stores like Walmart were allowed to be open and small retail wasn't. I'm not sure exactly how that is going to translate into our non-lockdown world, but we will see. And then Del Duca is going to, they're holding up closed doors behind the curtain, Ontario Liberal Party. I don't know if it's an event or a meeting or something this afternoon. So that kind of seems like they're rallying the troops in some way, shape, or form.
Wait, tell us more. What is that? What is this?
I don't get that.
What is it?
This is just what's on Del Duca's schedule for today. They just said it's an Ontario Liberal Party event in Toronto at 1:40 p.m. and it's closed to media. So I don't know whether that means it's going to be like fully closed, like there's no photo. It doesn't say like there's photo op. So it seems like it's something that's happening just with the campaign or with volunteers. I don't have a good read on it.
I assume the media finds that outrageous that they would have an event and not tell the media about the details.
It's ridiculous.
I'm banging on
Sean
my
O'Shea
desk.
is going to kick the shit out of Del Duca. That's very odd. That must be bad itinerary writing.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to bounce it off you guys because I was like, I don't have any idea what this is. But he's also going to the Kiwanis Club, so we can at least figure out what that means.
Day drinking.
And last up, Andrea Horvath. She's going to be in Etobicoke in the morning, and then she's talking about she's going to talk about the storm. By going out to Peterborough and the Bay of Quinte, which I think is Todd Smith's Prince Edward County riding.
It is my hometown.
All right.
My stomping grounds, you bet.
Yeah,
she's not going to beat Todd Smith.
I don't think so. They've been going to Peterborough, the NDP, a lot. Like I can think of 3 different instances at least that their campaign had Peterborough
It's
action.
a bellwether. If you win it, you win the election. So just like they're 10 seats away from winning the election, if you win Peterborough, you win the election. That's how it works.
But they're not winning, like the
Exactly.
2 Peterborough seats, like they're not winning Peterborough.
Exactly, right. If I drive a Lamborghini, I'm a rock star, but I don't have a Lamborghini, so they're not winning Peterborough.
Either Peterborough ridings.
I understand the idea of going to Bay of Quinte because they want to sort of say, well, storms happen and all that stuff. But like, it's a really inefficient use of, one of the last days of the campaign, to be honest. They can't afford to be there. They can't afford to be anywhere but Toronto.
You don't have the luxury of doing that, to your point. Like she's past that point. She also was off the campaign trail for 4 or 5 days with COVID. So her this makes zero sense to me in looking at this from a strategic point of view.
Sorry, Allison, we've taken over your segment. We also have
okay.
strong opinions about that hanging flower, which has been getting bigger and bigger day by day behind you. I think it's sentient and angry with you, so just be warned.
It's closing in. That's it. I don't have much else to say. That's the campaign day. Doug Ford was a lot of the same yesterday. He was at a streetcar making facility talking about transit and talking about building stuff and the PC's infrastructure budget. And the Liberals and NDP were trying to pick fights, trying to call Doug Ford a climate change denier. So it was, at least we talked about climate change on the campaign trail, even if it didn't particularly progress us, I would say, as a public, very much rhetorically.
Well, hold on for me. I've got a question for you. What did Stephen Del Duca say yesterday?
I mostly just remember him being mad at Doug Ford for climate change. Do I remember what else he said?
Well, you remember yesterday he was teeing it up. They had the leaked memo. They were going to go after Ford for Friends of Doug, insider play, how that abuses the public trust.
Yeah, that didn't really happen. Then he just talked about building homes and incentivizing builders or developers to build homes and not just sit on their land.
It's not a bad policy. It just doesn't correspond to the just you watch and see. We're going to show up bare-chested with our boxing gloves torn off, and we are going to let it rip. And that's not what occurred. Anyway,
they've been very bad at expectations management for their announcements.
Yeah.
Well, watch out for the big box bias this afternoon. That'll get Ontario on its knees.
Yes, let's fight against suburban moms who drive their kids around in cars and shop at Walmart and Costco. It's a brilliant strategy for victory.
I would say one of the things that I'm enjoying about the campaign is the fact that the Conservatives don't go to any all candidates meetings. Yet their war room is pulling quotes from the other parties' candidates' appearances at the all candidates meetings and running it against them.
And sometimes getting province-wide hits off of it. So it's just kind of like, Jesus Christ. Talk about damned if you do, damned if you don't.
All right, Allison, where do we find your fine newsletter?
Yeah, hit up politicstoday.news and you can sign up for a free trial of Queen's Park Today, Parliament Today, or Alberta Today, and British Columbia Today.
Well, I guess you hate PEI, huh?
We actually wrote about PEI in Queen's Park Today yesterday, so no.
I did, yes, I noticed that.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. So, guys, what caught your eye in the campaign yesterday? What interests you about what you saw yesterday?
Well, I did see David. I was going to bring up the debates because I think it's a brilliant strategy. I assume that Corey instructed the Corey tonight instructed the Conservative War Room to head out to debates and make sure to record the debates sans without the Conservative candidates, which I also think is a brilliant strategy for the Tories at this point during the campaign. And I love how the media and the opposition are wasting their bandwidth talking about that as well, an issue that the Canadians do not care about. Having been on the side of being in a war room, to politely asking candidates not to attend all candidates' debates.
Right.
I don't have anything to add. It's just grim. It's grim. You got to feel really shitty when you're like, you know what? I'm going to get a big head of steam as a local candidate. My God, my PC candidate opponent does not have the stones to show up here at this local debate. They're disrespecting the Water Street Community Association, and I'm here doing that. And then I say something that then, gets me a call from the Toronto Star. I kind of go, well, fuck, I don't know. I'm just going to sit in my basement, I guess, and watch Netflix until the 2nd of June. But I'm stepping all over my curse. You stepped all over it already, David. I'm going to, I was agitated. And I don't mean to sound too harsh, because I actually think the policy, I was agitated by the Liberal follow through yesterday. I liked the idea of leaking the memo. I liked the narrative that they previewed. I expected that they were going to say, here's 3 deals that came about, pencil whipped through this cabinet, maybe around this cabinet. This is how Doug Ford's government works. Real people got boned. Fancy rich people who were friends of Doug's got rewarded. And here's how it all went down. And there was none of that. There was a fine policy, use it or lose it on development, to try to move along supply issues. That sounds reasonably fine to me. But I was just so yesterday to me, I found it frustrating. I was waiting for a wrecking ball to come swinging through the brick wall of the PC re-election effort, and there was nothing. So I was frustrated.
Do you think part of that, Scott, was was someone reminding Stephen Del Duca that he might have relationships with developers himself, and having spent how many years in government, might have some things thrown in his face?
Well, he might. I don't know. I don't know what the degrees are. I don't know. The fact is that a bunch of people contributed to, various campaigns versus is there some story to tell about insidery connections and specific deals? I don't know. But if you're going to preview, but your point is a fair one, but that's something you handicap in advance. Then you decide, all right, well, then I'm not going down this road. You don't tell people I'm going down this road, right? With grenades and, a hell bent for leather bumper sticker on my half ton and then not go there. So I was just, I don't understand it. Don't tell me Prince is playing an after hours club and I show up and it's Bob Seger. Okay. I don't like the switch.
That's how much you dislike Seeger. I reckon that whether you're a Hurley-Burleyite, a member of the accursed, or both, you are in an unusually close relationship with your smartphone. I'd go further and bet that at least 50% of our listenership has a couple of phones. I don't judge. However, access to a smartphone and a data plan is not so easy or affordable for all Canadians. And it's a critical aspect of the digital divide our presenting sponsor, TELUS, is working so hard to bridge. TELUS Mobility for Good started in 2017, offering free or heavily discounted smartphones and rate plans to youth transitioning from foster care, so they could stay connected to their support networks and take advantage of other opportunities for the next stage of life. Since those early days, the program's been expanded to offer free or subsidized phones and data plans to low-income seniors and other marginalized Canadians who need the support a Lifeline brings. 13,000 people to date have been able to take advantage of the program, with 7,000 added in just this last year alone. TELUS's goal? To more than double that number to 30,000 by 2025. They'll get there too. How do I know? Because it's part of TELUS's many ESG commitments, environmental, social, and governance. They measure those commitments, publicly report on those commitments, and take action to get them done. You can read more about all of it in their sustainability and ESG report at telus.com/sustainability. So let's run through some data. Greg's got some fresh data for us. This is the first of two waves we're going to get because later this week he'll be coming out with polling questions that include New Blue in the question, and we'll be able to compare what happens when you include New Blue.
That's my favorite Axe body spray scent, by the way. New Blue. I like New Blue and Gym Shoes Erotic. Those are my two favorite scents.
All right, let's do this quickly. Somebody told me the numbers were boring earlier this week.
I think that was me and Jenny. Boom.
So I'm not going to give you regionals because this is a small sample size. This is only 500 people. So take this with a grain of salt a little bit. But what we got, 35 PC, 30 Liberal, 23 NDP, 9 Green. So that's growth in the green number. And 4 other. So that's not prompted for New Blue. 4% other.
That's decided vote, David?
That's decided vote.
Okay.
Among the most likely voters in his sample, the people Greg thinks are most likely to vote, it's 37 Conservative, 30 Liberal, 23 NDP, 7 Green. So the green number drops a little bit, Conservative number goes up a little bit. The Liberal votes are the softest. So 74% of current PC voters say they've heard all they need to make up their mind. Only 25% of PC voters are still interested in new information about the campaign. 63% of NDP voters say they've heard all they need to make up their mind. 30% are still interested. 51% of Liberals say they've heard all they need to make up their mind. 46% of Liberal voters still interested in more information about their options.
Would you agree, David, that those top line numbers, like they're tantalizing, and for people who have never been inside a war room, been inside a campaign, it is important when you get the 3 in front of your number after you've been cruising a 2 the whole campaign. There is a little bit of a sugar effect, right? You get a little, so suddenly the Liberals are at 30, they're within 5 of the PC, so it feels like, oh my God, we're within marching distance, and so that may have a morale effect. But I think, you tell me, David, these numbers more or less confirmed. Like, they don't actually show a big change, do they? Like, in terms of Greg's base, it's NDP, low 20s, PCs, hovering around majority territory, and Liberals, somewhere between like 27 and 30 kind of thing. So there is no movement here that's outside the margin of error from previous surveys, for sure. But I think, maybe the most interesting number is not the Liberal NDP spread, because that is bouncing around within the margin of error. But there are, I think, in the last couple of days, 3 or 4 polls that put the Conservative number at 35.
And I think I know I've asked this before, but just to confirm, Greg polls solely on party ballot, right?
That's correct.
So there's no so Del Duca benefits from a stronger Liberal brand.
He does, but the later you go in the campaign, the less difference that should make.
35% overall, and
but
the 37%
you're correct.
Most likely puts the Conservative Party in their majority territory.
I would think, right? It feels like statistical hair splitting a little bit to say 35. Maybe that's just a little bit of a flattening of the PC vote, and maybe it does. But when you combine likelihood to vote, the demographics, if there's any bump, as you say, for Doug on top of party brand, it feels like, they've, with 1 week to go, they've got majority. I think where the campaigns are going, when you compare these numbers to where the campaigns are, I think it's interesting. Like Del Duca and the Liberals can't feel 1,000% comfortable about Toronto. It feels like they're still trying to close the deal in those Toronto ridings and High Park and I think Beaches, and those are ridings where they are fighting the NDP. They are kind of traditional NDP ridings, but not completely, but they're strong NDP ridings. So maybe you can make the argument that they're on the front foot, but they're not 905 ridings, which is where I would be thinking they'd want to be. So I'm wondering if that means that they are still, notwithstanding these numbers, the Liberals are thinking we still have to finish the job of finishing off the NDP in the 416.
Well, but what I would look at those numbers if I was in the NDP war room would be, okay, so 49% of Liberal voters have not made up their mind on to whether they're going to vote for Del Duca. They need more information. So instead of spending my days in Peterborough and Belleville, I probably would be back in the 416, Scott, which I know you've been saying for the last several days. You're back in the 416 in those seats that you just mentioned that they're in knife fights with the Liberals.
Or if you feel as a campaign, sorry, just hang on, David. If as the NDP you feel you absolutely must demonstrate some compassion and focus on those affected by the storm, don't stop along the 401 between Toronto and Ottawa. Go straight to Ottawa and try to go to Ottawa Centre and do it there, where frankly the problem is most pronounced, right? And where people are really feeling disaffected and pissed off. Because they've gone days and days without power now. But I don't know why you would burn a day in Peterborough and Belleville. It makes no sense to me.
Solve the housing crisis by building more affordable homes, but not in my backyard. This is the mantra of a small but vocal group of Ontario residents, including municipal councillors and groups, that are more concerned about protecting the appearance of their neighborhoods than they are about ensuring all Ontarians have a fair shot at home ownership. Our original sponsor, the Ontario Real Estate Association, says NIMBYers, or not in my backyarders, are standing between the dream of home ownership and Ontario families. There are solutions that can help solve this crisis, but we need everybody on board. Outdated zoning laws only encourage NIMBY forces to fight the building of affordable homes and keep them out of growing neighborhoods. The result? More and more Ontarians have no shot at owning a home in the community they grew up in. Ontario needs to use the Planning Act to implement as-of-right zoning, beginning in urban municipalities, to create equality when it comes to home ownership and bringing down the cost of living. 40% of Ontarians believe that zoning restrictions in municipalities is the main reason why not enough homes are being built to sustain our current population. In 1 week, Ontarians go to the polls to elect the next provincial government. The housing affordability crisis needs to be at the top of the agenda when MPPs come back to Queen's Park, or else the dream of home ownership could disappear for an entire generation. You'll be hearing more from Maria about Ontario's housing affordability crisis and what can be done to fix it, because Aurea believes that reforming exclusionary zoning practices will have a big effect in ensuring we have a home for everyone. Read Aurea's plan at ahomeforeveryone.info. So here's what I say. I say Greg's numbers say the Liberal vote can grow just by recruiting more Liberals. Of people, he asked people whether they think of themselves as Liberals, think of themselves as PCs, think of themselves as New Democrats or Greens. And the Liberals have the lowest percentage of the people who think of themselves as those partisans voting for them. The Liberals have the lowest percentage of their partisans thinking that Del Duca would be the best person to be premier, thinking that their leader, would be the best person to be premier. There's room to grow just by recruiting Liberals back to voting for the Liberal Party. And you know what they need? They need Trudeau.
I was just going to say that. They need Trudeau to show up at an event.
They need Trudeau to do a rally and give Del Duca his embrace.
Yeah,
for Liberals to feel good.
Do you think that's going to happen?
I don't, but it would
the federal Liberals held a fundraising event, a Laurier Club event in Toronto yesterday. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm being a complete dink, but, couldn't you wait until you're not actually during the RIP period in the province? It seemed like, it seems like, it's like, whoa, hang on, right? I know we're at church, but I want my collection plate should go around first. Like, surprised me.
And you've seen like instances where federal cabinet ministers and MPs have been campaigning with their local candidates, but you really only see it once. It's not multiple posts. So it makes me think that it's truly one-offs, or after a Liberal MP does that, they're called kind of by the PMO and said we're staying out of the fucking race. Let's be honest, it was 2 days or the day before the writ dropped that Del Duca, or that Ford and Trudeau were on stage together, very tight and looking very buddy.
They're eating sandwiches together.
So he should turn about and do Del Duca a solid and pay him back for that. Get into the campaign, either do an event or at a minimum do a voice blast or something.
Maybe they might get a voice blast. That's true. They might get a voice blast, but the overall insight is really smart, David. Like that idea.
Well, thank you, Scott.
I'm just saying, God, some days I think to myself, why do we have to carry this lump of fucking firewood? But then you come out with something like that, and I'm like, by golly, Herle, he might be turning 60, but there's still a spark or two left. No, I think it's a really, this is, people that study numbers, right? It's a really important insight that, actually you can wring more drops out of your own washcloth here. And it also, it makes you kind of, and can't do anything with this in the next week, but it makes you sort of think to yourself, gosh, if there'd just been a little bit of a heavier lift on who Del Duca is and raising his visibility, giving Liberals a sense of, oh yeah, he's my guy, I get him, I like him. But he just isn't known. And there's a little bit of a penalty for that right now, I think, in the lack of enthusiasm. Because people,
the debate didn't move his personal numbers at all,
right. No, I think he has to be.
So you have to reassess what constitutes a good debate, right? Because he was generally thought to have had a good debate.
So
Well,
where does that take you so let's say you don't have Trudeau, which is a great thought. And it's also full of mischief and fun because we get people arguing, at least Liberals. What do you do beyond that, David? Like
brand.
And what does that mean? How does that manifest itself on the campaign trail?
Do everything to associate yourself with the brand. Feature the brand more prominently in your advertising. I would shift focus from leader to brand at this point and try to rally people around the Liberal flag. Use federal cabinet ministers where you can.
Maybe one way, and I know this, Jenny is going to go nuts, but what issue is more associated with Liberal brand than we want to strengthen gun control? And you got this tragedy in the United States yesterday. I'm wondering if we're going to see the Liberals of the NDP today, or at minimum tomorrow, pop up and talk about gun control somewhere. And it's not on anybody's schedule, but I would be very surprised. And if I was in the Conservative war room, I'd be waiting for the issue. And Conservatives will always say the same thing. They'll say, it's bullshit. You don't do this, don't do that. And it's a distraction, all that stuff. But it still cuts through, right? And so I wonder if we'll see that. And I wonder if Ford should be concerned about that. Does it have a rallying tick? And if the Liberals get out there on it, does it foster that brand association? Oh yeah, that's where Liberals are. And some people will hate that. They'll hate that in Peterborough and Belleville, but they'll at least in Hastings County.
In Belleville, they won't hate it in Peterborough necessarily.
Well, they'll hate it in
Liberals can win in Peterborough.
Let me be more precise. They'll hate it in Kawartha. They'll hate it in the Kawarthas, and they'll hate it in Hastings County. But you're right. In the city of Peterborough and the city of Belleville, no. But I wonder if it's something that you say associate yourself with a brand. That's easier said than done. It isn't. You don't just.
Well, but it's easy. You guys, listen, we have said this. You could go back. I said this so many times. You guys are blessed with the most resilient, strong political brand in almost the entire Western world. So I personally think Del Duca and his team made a mistake trying to make this about Del Duca versus Doug in the first place. This should have been about the Liberal Party of Canada. We've all run elections where all of a sudden, depending on where the polls are at, you've got your leader front and center or you've got your party brand front and center. And so this is what he should have been doing all along, during this election and leading up to it. So I agree with you, David. I think it's a little too late. But if you want to focus on those, ridings that you want to win, the ridings, I'm sure they went through painstakingly in the war room this weekend before they leaked their secret memo. It's all Liberal brand, and if you can find some pictures with Trudeau, you're not going to probably get the real guy, but slap him on any remaining GOTV pieces to go out, any ads that you have. But I wouldn't almost even put Del Duca's face or image in anything I do from here on out.
All right, Jenny, let's end with some news people can use. There's like 8 days left in this thing. What should a good local campaign be doing at this stage of the campaign?
They should be getting their vote out.
Okay. Just tell me how they would be doing that in 2022. What does that look like?
Well, it's pretty standard in terms of it hasn't changed that much from 2018 to 2022. So you're doing it through a series of door knocking.
Well, I apparently didn't know how to do it then either. So maybe.
In 2018, by this time, David and I were downstairs at the Red Lobster drinking by 1:30 in the afternoon every day going, really, it's on the people in the ridings. I'll have some more crab legs and acai beer, please.
Listen, you're out knocking on doors. You have probably put out a mail out. You've got your door hangers. And then you've also got a hybrid between volunteer calling and paid calling. Of course, text messaging has in the last decade, especially the last 6 or 7 years, has shown up as well in terms of, hey, Jenny, it's Elizabeth from, the PC party of Ontario telling you can vote and click here to find out where you can vote. So there's a whole bunch of tactics, but with the increase in advanced poll days, that's what riding should be doing now. And if the party HQ is looking at their target seats, regardless of which party HQ is, you're also looking at ridings that perceived don't have enough vote. a vote yet. So you're still, if you're in a riding that you've not met your vote goals, or it looks like you don't have enough vote to put you over the edge, you are still trying to scrounge up some numbers for the next part of GOTV for the 4 days you have left, as well as election day.
Jenni, if I'm running a Liberal campaign locally, and I know you're a Liberal, and systems are different a little bit and all that stuff, but do I go to David's point about borrowing Liberal Party brand? Do I also try to borrow Liberal Party infrastructure? So if I'm the local campaign manager in a contested riding in 905, in a York riding as an example, right, where you think, well, a couple of them might be tight, do I go to the federal local Liberal campaign and say, give me your list? My marked lists aren't as good as I want. I don't have as many Liberal vote ID'd as I want at this point. Give me your Liberal ID vote. I'll pull them blind. I'll assume there's enough overlap between federal, and I'll just pull them blind. And so if I can get 7,000 or 4,000 extra Liberal ID, is that a way the feds could help too?
Yeah, you'd assume that if a local candidate has a good relationship with their federal counterparts, they already have been sharing lists, voter like volunteers. That kind
you
of
would
stuff.
be pulling forward voters, though.
You'd have to be pulling off those lists. It'd be criminal not to. They probably have that degree of overlap, at least in Ontario and Toronto. My experience is those campaigns tend to be interwoven. Often, the actual exact same.
There's about one quarter of the Conservative vote, I think, that voted for Trudeau.
Well, but David, you sometimes have to make calculated if I'm running a local campaign and it is looking like a 30% or a 40% chance I'm going to lose, I'm willing to take that risk. Sometimes those are the risks that you have to take. Great.
Okay. While I've got internet, let's get a blessing and a curse out of us here. Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll go with I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but I found it very funny that Global released Stephen Del Duca's riding records for the last 4 years that he was an MPP. And
that's a lot of Billy Miner pie.
A lot of wedge salads and Billy Miner pie at the keg. 50K in volunteer appreciation. Volunteer appreciation dinners,
big team,
and what
team.
have you,
big team.
which I think is a bit of bullshit. And I'd like to see the media spend as much time on this as what they did on the Conservative MPPs that use their riding associations for discretionary funds. So what I would find,
which to be fair was about fuck nothing. I mean that story came and went in half a day, didn't it?
Agreed, but still, it's a point of hypocrisy. So I would actually call on, if I was the media, I'd say, okay, there are volunteer luncheons or volunteer dinners at the keg. $8,000 worth of them in 2 years. I think there were two very large dinners at the keg, if I remember the report. I think the one dinner, the 336 at like Jacob's Steakhouse, that would be dinner for like one.
Yeah.
But if it was a volunteer appreciation luncheon, I'd be curious to see which volunteers were invited to said dinners.
I don't know if this is going to get me in trouble and help Jenni in future refer to me as an elite snot downtown Torontonian, but I think Jacobs is overrated. I just do. So
any place that charges you $200 for a steak is by definition overrated.
And some of them $700 steaks, they're just a brick of butter with a little like they spray painted some meat on it. So
are those the Wagyu? Those are the Wagyu steaks.
Yeah, like some of them, they're like.
I don't think they have a steak less than $100 on the menu. I went there once and I was so stunned by the fucking menu, I never went back.
Me too. I went there exactly once and I was like, wow, I feel uncomfortable. I don't think this chair makes me feel fat, and I think. Steak is all full of marble, and anyway, that's not the point. We're not doing a blessing or a curse on Jacob's Steakhouse. And 336 is basically a cocktail and some shrimp cakes. But my curse, I was going to curse the execution on the Liberal event yesterday, but I'm gonna drop that just because I've beat that horse already so much. I was frustrated. I'm going to hit you with my right. I'm going to hit you with my right, and then I caress you with my left. I I'll instead, I'll pick up on what Jenni said. I gotta say, I think the Conservative War Room is doing a pretty good job. And I think most of the war rooms are actually, they're getting their pops in. You see stuff bubbling up in media and online. But I thought, the last couple of days, picking up on comments from, the Del Duca thing, I thought was a little shade of tactical brilliance. So before Del Duca gets to do his event, which has been telegraphed as a big deal, they put that out. So it doesn't counteract the whole thing, but it's what you want from your war room, right? And internally, like the David Herles of the world turn to the war room at 7:30 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning, whenever your morning call is. Yesterday morning, they turned and they said, war room, what do we got? Can we throw some chum in the water? Can we throw something out there that will fuck up their radar just a little bit, that will cause a distraction, that will put some sand in the gears for them? Yeah, well, we got this Jacob's Steakhouse, volunteer 50K thing, and they cracked that out. And so that's just good politics, because that story was out and getting retweeted before the Del Duca event, and it's just good work. It doesn't counteract it, but 15, 20% takes a little shade off it, knocks the speed down a little bit, distracts a little bit, and that's all you can ask for your war room, especially if you're already ahead. So I thought that was good work.
Yeah, I think I have no issues with any of that, and I do think the Conservative War Room is having a very good campaign. My curse, I guess, goes out to Stephen Del Duca, which is, Stephen, I know you believe in positive campaigning, and I know you don't want to get into what you would consider to be personal attacks and negative things, and you aren't the first leader to come into the leadership holding those views, but you're in a spot now, and you have to think about what you're going to do. You've got yourself and your issues at stake. You've got the party and its issues at stake. You got to think about what you're going to do for the last week. And this fight with the NDP is not settled, and the Conservatives are still out of range. So you got to really think hard about what you're going to say and do over the next 7 days that could possibly affect that. And I know from personal experience that you can move a lot of votes in 7 days in an election campaign. All right, Jenni, Scott, thank you for this morning. We'll see you later today. Have a pre-event cocktail to get us warmed up for events today. Woo! I want to thank our presenting sponsor, TELUS. I want to thank our sponsor, OREA, the Ontario Real Estate Association. I'd also like to thank Allison Smith of Queen's Park today, and thank Greg Lyle and the Innovative Research Group for their polling today, and all of you for listening today. And we'll be back tomorrow morning with some inebriated comments from the Toronto Regional Board of Trade tonight. See you tomorrow morning, everybody. Bye, Jenni. Bye, Scott.
Bye.
See you guys.